All right. Spark of Jewish Unity number 5. We've spoken up until now about how to create closeness with somebody else, about how to bridge a distance that's coming from me, from my judgment, from my lack of compassion, or from my lack of respect. And we learned how to grow compassion, grow respect, um, and grow favorable judgment. We learned how to change our own perspective. Today, quick question. What if the person who's distant from me doesn't want to be united with me? How do you create unity when there's distance? The distance could be physical. What if it's somebody who's across the world? The distance could be, I'm sorry, someone who's across the world or someone I've never even met, like someone who I'm reading about in the news that I see that they're hurting fellow Jews or whatever. So that could be a physical distance. The distance can be emotional. Somebody who's cut me out of their lives. Somebody who doesn't want to speak with you anymore. Somebody who um, doesn't want to connect. And the distance can also be spiritual. Someone who just won't see it the Torah way, the Jewish way for now, or doesn't, right? Somebody who doesn't want to change their mind, doesn't want to listen, doesn't want to hear. So, how do you still have uncompromised unity, uncompromised Avat Yisrael, love of a fellow Jew, and even helping a fellow Jew when there's distance? And we'll talk about this on 3 levels because that's also what we're talking about in the Tanya these days: thought, speech, and action. The first one, thought. We learn that the way we impact each other is not just with words and actions, but actually what we think about each other impacts each has a real actual impact. Everyone at this point knows about the water experiments, the water crystal experiments, and the rice experiments, that when you talk one way to it, or another way to it, when you play certain music or other music, when you even think certain positive thoughts or negative thoughts, you impact the molecular structure of the physical world around you. But we already learned that way before these experiments were ever done, where Hasidus teaches us that thinking positively about a fellow Jew reveals their strengths. So if I think about somebody else and I say, and I think about them compassionately, and I think, wow, their struggles are so great, but they have such a bright soul that they're going to overcome their struggles. They have such a bright soul that their soul is going to be heard. When we think positively and optimistically and generously about others, we there are shifts inside of themselves that they begin to feel in that their positive traits get revealed. The traits that we think about get revealed. So let's say somebody who's neglected you for a long time, and you think, but wait, I know that she really is a very kind person. I know that she really is a very generous person. Maybe she's struggling with XYZ, but I know that she's generous and I know that she's kind. You're actually strengthening that person. You're sending them spiritual strength from any distance in order to get in touch with their own good qualities. So that's number one. You could literally think good thoughts, send good thoughts to anyone, anywhere in the world, and that is one of the ways that we can impact each other. The second one is speaking. And the words that I want to talk about today are the words of prayer. We can pray for each other. We can pray for somebody else. And 3 of my favorite prayers to pray for somebody who there's a emotional or spiritual distance from. 3 of my favorite prayers are prayers that we say in the morning blessings. Blessed are you, Hashem, who opens the eyes of the blind. Blessed are you, Hashem, who releases the bound. And blessed are you, Hashem, who straightens the bent. And to send them those prayers it accomplishes two things. One, of course, to help them, but the other one to also remind yourself who's the one who's causing their spiritual handicap or emotional handicap. So it helps us to also shift our blame away from the person and back to where it really belongs. We say, God, you're the one who's in charge of sight. You're the one who's in charge of clarity. You're the one who's in charge of spiritual clarity. Hashem, please open the eyes of the blind. You're the one who's closing their eyes to the light. So God, please open up their eyes. God, you're the one who imprisons people inside of their animal soul or inside of their evil inclination. Hashem, God, it's in your power to release them from the exile in to their or captivity to their evil inclination. And so say, please, God, release the bound. And you're the one who straightens those who are down, those who are bent. Lift up my friend. Allow her to be strong. Allow her to have Jewish pride. Allow them to have respect or whatever's missing. We can pray for them. And the third thing, actions. We can actually impact somebody even from a distance with our actions. There's obvious ones like giving charity in somebody's merit, giving tzedakah in somebody's merit, doing a mitzvah in someone's merit. But there's another one too that's very powerful. When we change, the entire body of the Jewish nation changes. So if I am going to add in my Torah study with the intention of helping somebody else, we can trust God, trust Hashem, that it is giving them a spiritual boost as well. When we overcome a negative trait inside of ourselves, it breaks the forces of unholiness in the whole world and creates pinpricks in the darkness for the light to shine through. And boy, oh boy, will that light affect somebody who's very, very far from me physically. It will affect them as well. So if I want to give in to despair and instead I fight with the spirit of despair inside of me and I say, no, I'm a Jew and I'm proud and I'm not going to be afraid of terrorists. I'm going to fight the fear. I'm going to think about all the reasons not to be afraid. I'm going to think that God protects us, remember and meditate on that God protects us. I'm going to remember that life and death are in God's hands, not in the hands of terrorists. And when we battle with the fear inside of ourselves and we overcome it, we crush those forces in the whole world. And that impacts even somebody who is far away from us. And then as a tidbit, there's one other really, really important thing. When somebody is distant emotionally or spiritually, but not distant physically, like when someone's right next to you, but it feels like you could never connect regarding your opinions or your worldviews, this is where the answer is that you have to bring something that's bigger than both of your opinions or both of your worldviews into the conversation. So instead of arguing with somebody about your worldviews that are miles and miles apart, that cannot be at a greater distance from each other, instead, talk about something completely new. Elevate the conversation. Invite them to light the candles with you. The candles, the menorah, nothing to do with my worldview, your worldview. We can light the menorah together. So you can do a mitzvah together, or you can even invite them to a meal, lunch, where you won't talk about anything other than a beautiful play that has hit the market. You know, you can introduce a third variant into the equation, something that is not either of your opinions or worldviews. So that is Spark of Jewish Wisdom number 5. When there's a distance, you can still have unity by being kind and compassionate and doing something good for the other person, whether it's in action, in speech, or in thought. Yeah. To the extent, by the way, where there was the Rebbe writes in Hayom Yom in different places that because this is for families specifically, but Jews are one family. The Rebbe writes in the Hayom Yom that because of the bonds, there are bonds within family, so each of our behaviors affects everyone else. And when one family member deepens their awareness of God, their yirat shamayim, their fear of heaven, it elevates the others. So no matter where our brothers and sisters are around the world, where our children are around the world, where our parents are around the world, etc., we can impact them by deepening our bonds with Hashem as well.